Johnny Talk Sports in the Week 13 NFL picks. Last week, another strong week, 13-3. There were a couple picks that I kind of regretted. I kind of wish I could take the Chiefs and Bills one back, and possibly Jacksonville and Arizona back, but it's all good. 13-3 this week. That's a pretty decent week considering what could really happen in the NFL on a week-to-week basis. 26-4 the last 2 weeks, so not too bad at all. Let's see if we can keep it up for Week 13 this week. I'm going to go through these as quick as possible. I won't explain much of them, and a lot of these matchups, I don't think they're really the best matchups. We do have some good matchups this week, a handful of good ones. Let's start with the Thursday night game between the Washington Redskins and Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Dallas Cowboys, they are not the same team without Zeke. I mean, we clearly have been seeing how big of a presence that Zeke is to this Dallas Cowboys franchise. But I'm going to go with the Redskins in this matchup here. I just feel like Kirk Cousins is going to have a field day with this Dallas Cowboys secondary. I mean, such a young secondary. Phillip Rivers had his way with it on Thanksgiving last week. So I'm going to take the Redskins in this one. Next are the Minnesota Vikings versus the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons are on a 3-game winning streak, but the Vikings have been hot ever since despite losing Dalvin Cook for the year, and they've had Stephon Diggs battling injuries. I'm going to go with the Vikings here. I just feel like the Atlanta defense have a hard time stopping this running game of Latavius Murray and Jerick McKinnon. And plus their secondary, I think Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs in particular are going to have their way with this young Falcon secondary. So I'm taking the Vikings to win. Patriots and Bills. I'm going with the Patriots in this one. I just think the Patriots have been on a roll ever since that 2-2 start to the year. Next are the San Francisco 49ers and Chicago Bears. And it was announced that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to get the start in this one, which I'm really excited for Jimmy. But I unfortunately am going to pick Chicago to win this one. I think the Bears do better at home than they do on the road. So I'm going to take the Bears in this one. Tampa Bay and Green Bay. I think this is a must-win for the Packers here if they want to bring back Aaron Rodgers in Week 15 or 16, whenever they said they were going to bring him back. I think if they win this week and next week against Cleveland, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to come back in Week 15 to see what he can do to get the Packers back in the playoff picture. I'm going with the Packers here. I think based on how they played last week against the Steelers, I think they have a really good chance to win this game. And I see Jordy Nelson finally having a breakout game this week. I'm taking the Packers. You have the Texans versus the Titans. I'm going with the Titans. The Texans just do not look to be the same team without Deshaun Watson. So I'm going to take the Titans here. Next to the Denver Broncos and Miami Dolphins. I literally flipped the coin on this one. Nothing much to explain, but I picked the Dolphins. Kansas City and the New York Jets. Now, this is the pick that I'm nervous about. I'm going with the Jets here because the Chiefs have screwed me over the last 2 weeks on picks. Maybe if I don't pick them this week, maybe the Jets will pull it off. But I think the Jets, I think they're going to play the chip on their shoulder because they came close to beating the Panthers last week. So I'm going to think the Jets are going to win this week because the Jets are kind of unpredictable. They're the Washington Redskins of the AFC. One week they're going to come out really 100. Then the next week they're going to be about a 50 to a 0. So I'm going with the Jets this week. Colts and Jaguars. The Jaguars got a reality check last week with their 27-24 loss against the Cardinals. But I think the Jaguars are going to respond this week. I'm taking the Jaguars. Next to the Lions and the Ravens. I'm going to take the Lions in this one. I feel like last week was a must-win game for the Lions, but I think they're going to recover this week. But is it going to be too little too late? We have the Browns versus the Chargers. I'm going with the Chargers here. Honestly, this is bad news for the Chiefs this week because the Raiders are playing the Giants, and it was just announced today that Geno Smith is going to start instead of Eli Manning this week. So, unfortunately for the Chiefs, I feel like it's a must-win for the Chiefs, but the Chargers and Raiders are both one game behind the Chiefs. So, I see this being a fight to finish in the AFC West. So I'm taking the Raiders to beat the Giants. In my opinion, the game of the week, the Carolina Panthers versus the New Orleans Saints. This is for first place in the NFC South. And I'm going to take the Panthers in this one. I just kind of like what I've been seeing out of their defense lately. I think they've been responding really well to the adversity. I'm going to take the Panthers. with the Los Angeles Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals. I'm taking the Rams, even though the Cardinals had a confidence victory last week against the Jaguars. I don't see it happening 2 weeks in a row. I'm going with the Rams. Eagles versus the Seahawks. I'm going with the Seahawks in this one. I'm taking my chances here. I'm going with Seattle. I feel like this is going to be a tough game for Carson Wentz. Going into the 12th man in Seattle. The crowd's going to be on their feet all night in prime time. Despite the Seahawks not having Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor, I think Russell Wilson could be able to make enough plays to pull off the upset. I'm taking the Seahawks. I'm taking my chances here. And finally, the Monday night game, the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going with the Steelers here. Although divisional rivalries can go either way all the time, I just think the Steelers have been on a hot streak ever since that bad game against the Jaguars. They've responded to the adversity bell really well. No pun intended. So, those are my picks this week. For those who keep a score at home, I'm picking the Redskins, the Vikings, the Patriots, the Bears, the Packers, the Titans, the Dolphins, the Jets, the Jaguars, the Lions, the Chargers, the Raiders, the Panthers, the Rams, the Seahawks, and Steelers all winning this week. Let's see how I do. I'm going to predict I'm going to go about 11-5. I'm taking my chances with the Seahawks. I'm kind of taking my chance with the Jets and Dolphins. I'm also kind of taking a chance with San Francisco and Chicago because that can go either way. So I'm going to estimate I'm going to go about 11-5 or 12-4. Comment below what you think my record is going to be this week. Also comment your picks down below. Like and subscribe to the channel. I will see you next time. Have a great day, everyone.